After international calls, Houthi release a member of Baha'i minority with critical health condition. Leaked documents in Sana'a reveal Houthi involvements in trading with dealers' chemicals. Houthi restrictions on aid delivery continue to deprive millions of Yemenis nationwide. Good evening. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. I am Abir Ali and you are watching the English news. The city of Taiz continues to suffer from Houthi blockade on the city. This report has more details.
The activities of the Documentation Week of Taiz city's memory were inaugurated. 50% of the road network was destroyed, which raised the transportation costs to 1,000%, in addition to the loss of lives in the alternative roads.
The unstable highways and roads led to many accidents, about 374 deaths and 966 injured persons. The accidents also led to the loss of more than $474 million.
In the educational sector, the blockade closed 31 schools and damaged 180 schools, while the health sector was completely affected and unable to provide medical services. The blockade has affected the economic sector as well and led to a disaster in shocking numbers.
فترة طويلة من الحوارات مع ميليشيا الحوثي لم نصل إلى طريق تحت رعاية الأمم المتحدة.
It has been a long time now and talks with Houthis end up with nothing. Houthis insist on keeping the blockade on the city of Taiz. They have no sympathy. The Houthis' blockade on Taiz is a card they use for their advantage and political maneuvers.
The file of the siege of Taiz is one of the most important humanitarian files and represents the suffering of more than 4 million citizens. The intransigence of the militia and the lack of seriousness of the United Nations in humanitarian dealings during the previous rounds of negotiations is a matter that raises doubts on what they are truly doing. The event ended with showing a documentary film about Taiz siege, which reviewed the different stages of the siege and its implications.
IOM said that the number of African migrants who arrived in Yemen during the first half of this year exceeded the number of arrivals during the entire past year. The organization confirmed that, according to the data, it recorded the arrival of more than 77,000 immigrants during the period January to June 2023. It stated that the number registered during the first half of this year increased by 312% compared to the same period in previous years. Women and children make up 80% of the displaced in Yemen, according to the United Nations. The representative of the United Nations Population Fund in Yemen said that women and children make up to 80% of the displaced in the country and that 26% of the total displaced families are headed by women, while 5.5 million women and girls of varying age face problems in accessing reproductive health services.
Situation in Marib, it's quite difficult. There are a lot of IDPs coming. There is a need in the local community. There are marginalized people. We also have a lot of migrants here who need support. I would say that the medical situation in Marib is it's quite critical. We provide primary health care. We do have 2 mobile teams which are visited on a weekly basis 7 different sites. On the top of it, we provide also mental health support to people in need. There is a need for secondary health care, for more support of the local facilities. There is a need in food security and livelihood sector. There are a lot of people who don't have enough food. Migrants don't have access to food. There is a need in the wash sector, hygiene promotion, latrines, showers. There is not enough water for people. So the needs is everywhere. there are a lot of people in need, and even we do have our activities are growing here in Marib. There is still much more to be provided to people here.
The Iran-backed Houthis have released a critically ill member of the Jewish Baha'i minority. The released detainee was among 17 Baha'i members held by the Houthis since May. This report has more.
The Iran-backed Houthis have released a critically ill member of the religious minority Baha'i sect, one of 17 held by the Houthis for almost 2 months. The Baha'i international community said the Houthis released a severely ill Baha'i member named Ahmed al-Malahi and demanded that international pressure be increased on the militia until they free the others. Ahmed al-Malahi, who is gravely ailing, was released as a result of international pressure, the community said on Twitter on Wednesday. We continue to demand that all government and international organizations demand the immediate and unconditional release of all Yemeni Baha'is, it added. In May, the Houthis detained 17 individuals in Sana'a, including 5 women, after raiding their houses and seizing property and papers. The current crackdown on Baha'i community members began after the militia deported many top leaders and condemned several of them to death, including the sect's leader. The criminal group also prosecuted more than 24 members of the Baha'i religion, which arrived in Yemen in the early 1940s. The repressive history of the Houthi group against the Baha'i community began after it controlled Sana'a. According to the Yemeni Initiative to Defend Baha'is, the group exiled 6 Baha'is in 2020 because of their religious beliefs. The State Security Court, which is governed by the Houthis, imposed death sentences and seized Baha'i property, finances, and endowment. It also forced the closure of administrative and development entities. Under international and local pressure, the Houthis declared a blanket amnesty for Baha'i captives on March 25, 2020. The pardon, however, was never carried out, and the organization proceeded to punish the forcibly displaced. According to sect members, the Houthi organization has continued to promote prejudice against them in university curriculum and courses. Sana'a sources confirmed the continuous Houthi persecution of the community, stressing that they target their sources of income through arbitrary and illegal methods.
A human rights observatory reported that sea mines laid by the terrorist Houthi militia moved towards the islands located to the northwest of the Yemeni coast in the Red Sea. The Yemeni Landman Observatory said that Houthi deployed mines during the past days, taking advantage of the winds that contributed to moving these mines. The wrong use of pesticides affected the lives of many Yemenis, leading to many health complications. This report has more details.
Yemenis pay the price for the corruption of the Houthis in the agricultural sector and their desire to enrich and multiply their resources, while the corruption practices are revealed by the Houthi leaders working to introduce, smuggle, and market banned types of pesticides and condoning the falsification of names of other types. A recently leaked document revealed that the impersonated Houthi leader had been granted the position of Undersecretary of the Ministry of Agriculture, a license for a commercial company to import and market a large amount of pesticide, whose import and use in Yemen has been restricted since 2006, except through the supervision of the Ministry of Agriculture. Also, another document revealed the guidance of the Houthi leader, who is impersonating the Assistant Undersecretary of the Airports sector in the Aviation Authority. They requested the Agricultural Services Corporation for 7 tons of the same pesticide to be used in the fight against spiders in the buildings and surroundings of the airport. Agricultural sources in the capital Sana'a questioned the use of this amount of pesticide to protect the lands and buildings of Sana'a Airport from insects due to its size on one hand and lack of need for this type of pesticide to protect non-agricultural buildings and lands, as insects that breed in these places can be incurred in limited quantities of pesticides. In addition, the sources suggested that there is a great suspicion of corruption behind the demand of this quantity of pesticide, as it's likely that it will be looted from the airport warehouses and handed over to dealers of pesticides and agricultural supplies, or delivered to these merchants directly due to the lack of control and inception. The most vulnerable group to these risks of pesticides and other toxins are farmers, especially with the absence of sufficient awareness of how to use and prevent them and provide protection tools from them, in addition to the lack of translation of methods of use. A few days ago, a medical center specializing in allergic diseases in the capital Sana'a announced that it received many cases of people with allergic conditions in their mouth, tongue, swelling in the throat, and difficulties in breathing and swallowing, to the point that a number of people with these conditions are forced to dispense with food and replace it with fluids until the symptoms end. Also, medical sources showed that the majority of people with this allergy are users of qat plant, which is the plant most exposed to pesticides because of its high popularity and the desire of farmers to accelerate its growth and achieve the largest number of harvests of qat, so that they can double their profits. Many of the victims of allergic diseases are children of farmers who are entrusted with the tasks of spraying crops with pesticides, especially the qat plant, and they do not receive training or instructions on how to use pesticides, and they are not provided with the means of protection, and most of them suffer from allergies in the skin, eyes, and respiratory system.
Coming up in the news. The interim capital Aden to host an English theatrical event on the 17th of July. Welcome back. The award-winning Ilaria Outdoor Theatre is set to visit Aden Country Park with an action-packed production of Robin Hood this summer. This report has more.
The English Outdoor Theatre Ilaria is going to perform the well-known story of Robin Hood to children in Aden's public park. Illyria has performed top-notch outdoor theater for more than 30 years, and the artistic director mentioned that they are delighted to visit Aden Country Park this year. In addition, the VDP development officer said that they are feeling the need to blow off some steam and get together with their loved ones by enjoying entertainment outdoors, which is the perfect way to do that, in her opinion. She added that Robin Hood is a swashbuckling adventure for the whole family, and it promises laughter and mischief. The event at Aden Country Park will take place on July 17 at 7 p.m. and it promises to be a fantastic opportunity for locals to celebrate the return of summertime together. Moreover, the event will be held outdoors in the uniformed campsite area of the park. Tickets are also promised to be affordable for children and adults, to give an opportunity for the whole family to spend a good time and escape the suffering of the war, even for a few moments. For over 30 years, Illyria has had a simple mission: to create outstandingly enjoyable outdoor theater and make it available for everyone. They have performed for more than 1 million people, and this year will perform 12th Night, Pride and Prejudice, and Robin Hood at open-air venues, which is going to be performed in Aden Public Park. Art in Yemen used to be existing, even amid the severity of the war. Last year, in light of the calamities of the war and its painful effects on Yemenis, 2 Yemeni women have succeeded in winning international awards for their excellence in fine arts, as an expression of their success in transferring the pain of Yemeni women to the international arena.
Local teams on the West Coast have completed training on how to deal with any oil spill that may result from uploading the Safar tanker. The training targeted 25 participants from various governmental and local agencies, including the Coast Guard, the police, and the environment. Participants received training on how to use the equipment needed to deal with an oil spill, how to assess and manage risks, and how to communicate with the public.
This is what the long journey was all about. The Safar sitting just off the coast of Hodeida with a dangerous load. The operation will start tomorrow to make the Safar safe, to pump its oil, and to clean the Safar for scrapping. We have arrived, and with thanks to all our partners and donors, particularly thanks to the government of Yemen. The Safar is the biggest environmental threat to the Red Sea at the moment. We are on our way to pump the oil from this dangerous ship with the help of this Endeavour ship that I'm on. The Nautica, our second ship, the tanker, will come to the side of this ship, and Smith Salvage will pump the oil from one into the other.
The chairman of the Presidential Leadership Council, Rashad Al-Alimi, praised Britain's firm position on the side of the Yemeni people. He also praised the role of the outgoing British ambassador in strengthening bilateral relations between the two countries. This came during Al-Alimi's meeting with the British ambassador, whose mission in Yemen has ended. Local sources in Sana'a reported that the Houthi militia is planning to demolish the wall of the first ancient mosque. The sources stated that the Houthis are currently intending to demolish the wall of an ancient Al-Mashhad Mosque located in Sana'a. Al-Mashhad is the first mosque built in Sana'a and in Yemen, and it is also one of the 3 most important mosques built at the beginning of the early stage of Islam. According to the United Nations, the Houthis' limits on food supplies as well as Yemen's deteriorating economic position have pushed the humanitarian crisis to an unprecedented level of urgency. This report has more details.
According to UN data, the restrictions placed by the Houthis on food aid, as well as the deterioration of Yemen's economic status, are 2 major causes that have driven the humanitarian crisis to an unprecedented degree of urgency. The United Nations fears that 8 to 5 million Yemenis will stop by next September if it does not receive more funding. According to the data distributed by the Office of Humanitarian Affairs in Yemen, the funding of the Humanitarian Response Plan did not exceed 29% by mid-2023. As a result, the volume of some activities has been involuntarily suspended. Malnutrition activities are currently running at 40% of needs, but in the absence of new donations, the World Food Programme will have to cut food assistance to up to 5 million people by September. The United Nations stated that by stabilizing the economy, a substantial number of people in need may be addressed, and that resuming oil exports from government-controlled regions is critical to paying public sector wages. It emphasized the need to remove the ongoing impediment to the movement of commercial items from government-controlled regions to those under the Houthi militia's control. According to the Office of Humanitarian Affairs, commercial goods must be able to flow throughout the country unimpeded. More should be done to improve people's income and purchasing power and ensure the provision of basic services. The office also stated that restrictions on the movement of national female workers in militia-controlled regions continues to impair the international organization's capacity to conduct critical initiatives for women and girls. According to a World Food Programme assessment on its previous month's work, the authorities of the Houthi militia are responsible for 70% of the obstacles to relief efforts.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. After international calls, Houthi release a member of Baha'i minority with critical health condition. Leaked documents in Sana'a reveal Houthi involvement in trading with deadly chemicals. Houthis' restrictions on aid delivery continue to deprive millions of Yemenis nationwide. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali, and thank you for watching.